Jack Morgan had spent years building his ranch into the place he called home. The property had belonged to his family long before the nearby HOA existed. But one morning, Jack noticed something strange on the road outside his gate. A convoy of unfamiliar vehicles was heading straight toward his farm. The convoy wasn't coming for a visit. At least 8 vehicles were packed with HOA representatives and security personnel. Their leader was HOA President Victoria Hayes, and she was driving toward Jack's private gate as if she already owned the land. Victoria claimed the HOA had decided the ranch was part of their development. Jack immediately told her she was mistaken. He explained that his property was privately owned and clearly recorded. Victoria simply smiled and told him the HOA had other plans. Jack refused to open the gate. He reminded Victoria that the ranch was private property. She threatened to have her people remove the gate themselves. Jack calmly replied that they would be responsible for whatever happened next. Victoria wasn't willing to back down. She ordered the convoy to move closer to the ranch entrance. Jack watched them carefully but never lost his composure. He knew something they didn't know. Jack went inside and pulled out the original property documents. He had kept every deed and survey map carefully preserved. The records clearly showed that the ranch was his private property. Then Jack made one phone call, but he wasn't calling the sheriff. Jack called his wife, Elena. She wasn't just his partner at home. She commanded one of the state police divisions responsible for the region, and she was about to hear exactly what the HOA had done. Elena listened quietly as Jack explained the situation. Her expression changed when she learned a private convoy was on his property. She immediately understood that this was no ordinary HOA dispute. She gave a calm order that would soon change everything. Within minutes, state police units began moving toward the ranch. Several patrol vehicles joined the response. A state police helicopter was also dispatched to monitor the situation. Victoria's convoy had no idea who was coming. Then the sound of sirens filled the ranch road. State police vehicles arrived one after another behind the HOA convoy. Victoria turned around, expecting to confront ordinary officers. But Jack simply smiled as his wife stepped out of the command vehicle. Elena stepped out of the command vehicle and walked toward the gate. Victoria's confident expression disappeared almost instantly. She recognized the uniform, but she still didn't understand who Elena was. Then one of the officers addressed her as Commander Morgan. Victoria demanded to know why state police were interfering. Elena calmly explained that the property belonged to her husband. She told Victoria that the HOA had no authority to seize private land. For the first time, Victoria realized this confrontation was going badly. Elena showed Victoria the official property records. The deed clearly placed the ranch outside the HOA's ownership. The survey maps confirmed the exact boundaries of the property. There was no legal basis for the convoy to take control of it. Victoria tried to argue that the HOA had approved the takeover. But Elena asked a simple question. She wanted to know which legal document authorized them to enter the ranch. Victoria had no answer. The state police officers began documenting everything. They photographed the vehicles, the gate, and the property boundary. Every detail was being recorded for the official report. Victoria suddenly realized that her convoy had left a very clear trail. The helicopter continued monitoring the scene from above. No one was being allowed to move deeper onto the property. Elena wanted the entire situation handled calmly and professionally. Victoria's attempt to intimidate Jack had completely stalled. Jack finally walked over to his wife. He thanked her for coming, but Elena reminded him she was simply doing her job. The two stood together at the gate. They had refused to surrender, and the HOA still had one final question to answer. Elena gave Victoria a clear choice. She could leave the private property peacefully with her convoy, or she could continue the dispute through the proper legal channels. Victoria finally understood that the ranch was not hers to take. One by one, the HOA vehicles began turning around. The convoy that had arrived with confidence was now leaving quietly. Jack watched from behind his own gate. The ranch had never belonged to the HOA, and now everyone knew it. By sunset, the ranch was quiet again. Jack's land remained exactly where it had always been. Elena stood beside him, proud that everything had been handled the right way. and the HOA learned one unforgettable lesson. Private property still has boundaries.